Hey, this is me again. If you don't know who that is, well, that corner, Yusuf here. Um, I got this question, and it's a good question. I have a question for you. I've recently talked to a Protestant, don't know evangelical, I think. But anyway, all he would talk about is Israel and how it is threatened, how threatened it is, and how it needs to be defended. Sounded very Zionist. Most of the rest most of the rest would be about the Arab countries will eventually try to attack and destroy Israel. It boggles my mind that this person really had nothing to say about Christians, but it seemed more like he is trying to convert to Judaism. I don't understand this mindset. What do Protestants want anyway? Can you explain to me the mindset of these people, because I can't understand this? Um, I wholeheartedly agree. Uh, these people think, well, if there's Christians that are living in the Middle East, they must be in, they must be pro-Israel. Or I don't even think they believe that Christians live in the Middle East. If there's any Christians in the Middle East, it's because evangelical Protestants went there, and I've actually had people say this to me, like, oh, there's Christians in Syria. When did the missionaries get to Syria? I actually had This is one of the most saddest things is this black girl asked me about, I was talking about the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and she said, when did the European missionaries get there? No, Ethiopia has been a Christian nation forever, since the advent of Christianity. Came in communion with Constantinople with two shipwrecked sailors, but it had already known of Christianity. It was already practicing it. It already made its way down there. Um, I mean, you had Ethiopia cut off from the rest of the world, and did it say, "Oh, we're just going to give up Christianity"? It was fine. It actually lived side by side with the Jews, harmony. Now there were infighting between what type of Christian, Chalcedonian or Monophysite. There was no Miaphysite. The Solomonids were Monophysites, and they crushed the people who actually the Chalcedonians were people who it was more, religion was kind of like an identity thing back then, of which side you were on. At least with that struggle, and it was the people who were called the Nubians, who basically the Cushites erased. Now I know in history we think of Nubian and Cushite as being the same thing, but it's not. I guess I should say more Axumite, which was the leaders of the Cushites. Basically wiped out these people who were a different people than the Ethiopic people today. They were more looked more like black West Africans. They didn't have the Ethiopian features. They were, I guess you might say Bantu or whatever. It's strange. No, but they would, if you said, well, there's Orthodox and Roman Catholics there, and the majority of the Palestinians are Orthodox, but many of them are Catholics, and they hate Israel, and they're trapped between Israel and Islam, and there's they're getting crushed from both sides, and Israel's doing them no favors, and are actually pretty much destroyed Bethlehem as any place to go. It's not a safe place. You can't go. They say, it's not a safe place to go. You can't go there. I mean, there's been a significant flight from Bethlehem, one of the oldest Christian shrines in the world. And they built a wall right down its main street, the street that connected it with Jerusalem. Built a wall right down. I mean, it closed down all the shops there. Minor tourism there. I mean, when it built this wall, and they call the fence what do you call, a well over, 16 foot high, 1 foot thick concrete fence going in one direction for miles. That's a wall. Whenever you have a fence that's made out of that you can't see through, that's made out of concrete and is a foot thick, that's usually called a wall. Yeah, this fence here, this fence, this fence right here, and I have 4 fences in this room right here, and then there's the gateway, or is it 4 walls and a doorway? No, this is not a fence. I still get astounded by this. They're Protestants, and if they're of the evangelical bend, they say the biggest evil in the world is the Roman Catholic Church. Really? That's the biggest evil in the world, is a Roman Catholic Church? It's an arm of Satan, it's this, it's that. So you'll take the side of people who reject Christ, and I mean, to be Jewish is to reject Christ, right? That's where we separate from them. That's where you have modern Judaism and you have Christianity. I mean, when I mean modern, I mean for basically the past 1800 years. Judaism splitting from, I mean, it's an identifying thing because Christianity grew up within the midst of Judaism. So there was a backlash against that formed in that direction. Even the books they would allow, and it's in the Tanakh. The rejection of the Septuagint was entirely due to Christianity. This comes from, I can hypothesize, or I don't know, postulate where it comes from. Them having no roots in history, them not knowing that there's and anytime we talk about Christian history, it blacks out right at the last thing that could have possibly been written in the New Testament, which they always insist is the apocalypse. Which I don't think by a long shot that was the last thing written in the New Testament. I actually put that early. I would put, 3rd John or 2nd Peter or Jude or Hebrews much later than the Apocalypse. But they black out at that, and then they pick up at Luther or Calvin or Henry VIII or, one of these clowns. You had a manic depressive drunk, you had a lawyer, and then you had a corrupt king who just wanted to divorce his wife and then started slaughtering the rest of them. Great place to start out at. And then it gets more horrendous from there. I mean, it just factions off into every human being is now the Pope. There's always private interpretation instead of no private interpretation. Always private interpretation. Because if there's no private interpretation, that means then there's one guy who has to do it, and that's the Pope. And they have no idea what Eastern Orthodoxy is. Somebody recently wanting to read Roman Catholic stuff about the Virgin Mary. And I said, would you read Mormon stuff about Jesus? And then when you reject that, then go to the New Testament. He said, no, that's backwards. I said, well, why wouldn't you pick up Eastern Orthodox stuff about Mary first, before you get all the filler stuff in the later, which she knows it came later. It just seems odd to me. It seems like you're poisoning the well. It's term used for debunking a logical argument, basically destroying the truth by jacking it up all with lies. And so when you're presented with the truth, you have a totally skewed idea on what what the hell the person's even talking about. So no, I have no idea. This makes no sense, no kind of sense to me. You might be Catholic, the person that asked this. Roman Western Latin Rite Catholic. Well, there's also the Maronites and the Unions, so you might be part of that, or you might just be an Orthodox Christian. But no, they have no concept. It's just Roman Catholicism to them. They don't know. And it's funny. I often hear. Well, I've heard this a few times. Well, I went to the Orthodox Church. I've seen what it's like, and it looks almost identical to the Roman Catholic Church. When I ask these people, have you been inside a Roman Catholic Church for the last 30 years? Because no, it doesn't. Roman Catholic looks like Lutheran or Episcopalian or Anglican or whatever. Anglican and Episcopalian are different, at least around me. The Anglicans usually, which is a break-off of American Episcopalianism, try to go back to their roots and have bishops in either Africa or Southeast Asia, whereas the Episcopalians go right back to Canterbury and Rowan Williams, I believe his name. So yeah, is this American? Are these Americans talking? American Protestants, yeah. I mean, you want to talk about a threat to Orthodox people. To them, Russia is still communist, atheistic communist. This is what Russia is. And so are all the Eastern Bloc countries that used to be the satellite states. They're still communist in this mindset. It's not. And Israel was it's extremely Zion. They're more Zionist than Jews that I talk to, and they take anti-Zionism to mean anti-Semitism, which, well, first of all, anti-Semitism is ridiculous. I mean, the Arabs are Semites. If there's anything anti-Semitic, it's the state of Israel against their Semitic neighbors. They take anti-Zionism to be anti-Jew, which it's not the same thing. There are many Jews. I talked to a Jew who's an anti-Zionist. I'll start speaking against Islam, and then some people will start talking about Israel and Iran, and it's like, I love the Iranian people are actually very moderate. It's this government that's ratcheted atop them that they didn't. Well, I thought they didn't know what they were getting when they got the Ayatollah, well, you can argue either way, but they can't understand somebody being a Christian, not pandering to Islam, and being anti-Zionist. It doesn't. To them, there must be a contradiction in there somewhere. Or you're an agent of the Catholic Church, even if you openly, as I just did, go against what the Catholics teach. You're a secret agent. In fact, some of these people think that Islam was created by the Roman Catholic Church. Not joking. And they believe that Lincoln was assassinated by the Catholic Church, and that so was JFK, even though he was a Catholic. So John F. Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln were killed by Roman Catholicism, and Islam was created by Roman Catholicism. And Zionism, which started off as a nationalist movement, had nothing to do with religion. Actually, socialist communist, basically. Nationalist leanings. I mean, look at the kibbutz. What's Jewish about the? I mean, it was to try to destroy the family. That's why they segregated all these people. It's Marxist. It's maybe not Marxist, Leninist, Stalinist, but it's definitely Marxist. This is how it started out. Well, they were peaceful people. Really, who are the Irgun? Who blew up the King David Hotel? Peaceful. I mean, Yeah, they have no idea. They don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. They don't even know about Christianity. You can't even. You ask them, how is the Bible formed? Oh, it was formed right after the last apostle died. They just gathered. I mean, it's almost like an Islamic interpretation. It's like a Muslim telling of how the Quran was compiled, except it's just about the Bible. Oh yeah, after the last apostle died, they just put it together, and then people copied it down. Never read the thing. Never read the thing, because that's impossible that anybody in the year 300 or 500 or 600 or 1000 would have read the Bible. It wasn't read. It was outlawed from being read, but somehow it got preserved in all these languages. And that it's the inerrant word of God, that it's, and the way they tell you how it is, it's almost as if somebody's whispering in the ears, right, telling to write down what. And many of them openly say this, or they'll scorp, well, the prophets were like this. This is what the prophets. It was just the word of God coming straight to them. Really? I mean, this is lunacy. Again, people who will take creationism. You must be a creationism. You must believe in a worldwide flood. But when Jesus said, "This is my body. This is the blood of the everlasting covenant," my body broken for you. Oh, he didn't know. But if you believe that, you'd be a Catholic. You're not just following the Bible. You'd have to be a Roman papal Catholic to believe that. And you wouldn't, so that's I mean, they're Protestants. They're initially against the church. So how can you be a Christian and yet be protesting the church? And many times they have rendered the church non-existent, saying, well, it doesn't really exist. It's just believers who believe all different things. It's just if you have a relationship with Christ, you're in the church, but you can't ever know where that is, or there's nothing authoritative coming out of there, which looks like nothing of anything that's portrayed in the New Testament. So I'm just, I can give ideas and where this comes from, with having had interactions with these people. But it's just weird, as you pointed out. It confuses the mind. It's so ridiculously stupid. Peace to you. May God save Serbia and Syria. I guess that's all I got to say on the topic. Sounded very Zionist. Most of the rest would be about the Arab countries will eventually try to attack and destroy Israel. It boggles my mind that this person really had nothing to say about Christians, but it seemed more like he is trying to convert to Judaism. I don't understand. It's a good question. I have a question for you. I have recently talked to a Protestant, don't know evangelical, I think. But anyway, all he would talk about is Israel and how it is threatened, how threatened it is, and how it needs to be defended. Hey, this is me again. If you don't know who that is, well, that corner, Yusuf here. I got this question, and Middle East, they must be pro-Israel, or I don't even think they believe that Christians live in the Middle East. If there's any Christians in the Middle East, it's because Evangelical Protestants went there, and I've actually had people say this to understand this mindset. What do Protestants want anyway? Can you explain to me the mindset of these people, because I can't understand this. I wholeheartedly agree. These people think, well, if there's Christians that are living in the